Thanks.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for sitting down with us again. We appreciate it. Could you recount again for me the incident in which you were wounded?
Well, I was standing on the top of this hill at the aid station, and a random shell came in. It couldn't have gone off more than 5 or 10 feet away from me, because all I remember is a tremendous blast and a flash. And the next thing I knew, I was laying on the ground in the snow, and I tried to get up. And when I tried to get up, only thing I could see were the broken ends of my legs. And I thought my legs were gone. Because that's all, the broken part, both femurs were shattered. And they were laying down here as I was in my back trying to raise my legs up. And I thought, I'm dead. I'm about to die. And I said my act of contrition, because I'm a Catholic. And then the next thing I thought of was my mother. And I thought, what's she going to say? Because I was an only child.
My name is C. Carwood Lipton. I was born in Huntington, West Virginia, grew up in Huntington.
Frederick T. Heiliger, Concord, Massachusetts was my hometown.
I was born in a town named Inchelium, Washington. It's on an Indian reservation up in northeastern Washington.
My name's J.B. Stokes. I was born close to Bonham, Texas, in a rural area called Leonard.
Born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. My father worked for this railroad. My mother was a housewife.
My nickname was Babe, and my mother, she was a little Irish broad, red hair, fiery, great woman, great woman.
Born and raised in South Philadelphia, where the times were tough. Mom had 10 children, so you had to work to survive. That's what it was. It's just survival in the streets of Philadelphia, that's all.
It was a real struggle because we came up in the Depression. Sometimes we live on a farm and have pigs and chickens and raise a garden.
I saw people that really were hungry and had hard times. My father was able to find some kind of employment. We never went hungry.
We lived on a farm at the time. It was poor. Everybody was poor. That was the Depression.
When I got to about 10, I got a paper route. That $5 a month I made, something like that, But it was at least something.
There's a work ethic that the Pennsylvania Dutch in this particular area are very proud of.
I was the oldest one, so I sort of branched out on my own at an early age.
I was married when I was 19 years old in 1941.
On December 7th of 41, we were in a store and a guy, he says, the USA is in a war with Japan, and everything just went silent.
I said, let's go in the Army. He said, hell, I don't want to go in no Army. I said, well, you're going to have to go sooner or later.
Something was wrong with you if you weren't in the service in those days. It was just what you had to do.
I wasn't going to be in the infantry, I knew that. I was going to be in some top kind of a unit, or I wasn't going to be in the Army.
Life magazine had run an article on paratroopers sometime in early 1942, and it told about the training that they got and the difficult physical requirements. And I just got interested in seeing if I couldn't become a paratrooper.
Nobody forced you to do this. You volunteered. And it was the notion that you wanted to do something, you wanted to be with the best.
But once you got in there, you was proud to be. We was proud of our boots. We was proud of our shoulder patch. And we was proud to be paratroopers. And we was proud to be working with the guys we were working with.
You know these people that you're in service with, you know those people better than you will ever know anybody in your life. I mean, you know them right down to the final thing, you know. And that comes when you start your training, while that progresses.
Each man was like a heavyweight champ of the world boxer.
Out of 100%, only 10% made it.
I thought I was going to die.
There wasn't no holding back.
You had to hang in there. You had to be tough.
We marched 118 miles in 3 days.
The training I got and the men I trained with gave me the confidence to go into battle.
We were just a bunch of ordinary kids when we went in, most of us. And a lot of the training was to build you up physically and mentally.
Some of them lost as much as 40 pounds, but I didn't have nothing to lose. I weighed about 130. If I'd have lost 40 pounds, I wouldn't have been big enough to stay.
You know, they weeded out so many. They'd be there one day and they'd be gone the next.
They couldn't keep up with it. You understand? They were good men, but they couldn't take that hard training. Well, he had the cream of the cream.
Had to climb this mountain called Currahee every morning, run it up and back. If you couldn't do it, why, you'd end up in another unit.
Of course, the name Currahee, as I understand it, means we stand alone together. That's an Indian name. It became a symbol of the camp because it was really rough and tough going up and down.
A lot of times, especially on a Monday, when some of the guys would get out somewhere and get them a little drink or so, you'd see them laying beside the road, you know, going up and coming back, you know, where they're sick.
And it didn't matter how hard they trained you and how tired you got, you would still go out on your own and run the mountain at night, which was ridiculous because when you had to run it during the day, all you did was bitch and moan. And at night, you'd get a couple of guys and go up and do it on your own.
We learned how to be soldiers at Toccoa as a group, all of us coming in from no experience in the Army at all, coming in directly from civilian life.
I'm going to say this. I believe that the paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division was as well trained as you could get a soldier to be at that time.
We packed our own chutes for the first jump.
Nervous as hell getting on the plane.
You're asking yourself, what the hell am I doing here?
When it came time to stand up and hook up, we did.
Coming down is great.
It affects everybody different.
Felt like a bird flying in the air.
Broke my foot on the first one.
They're dropping 16 feet a second.
I can remember just like it was yesterday. That morning after breakfast, they marched us all out there to the airfield. There was a bunch of guys out there that already made their jump. And they was all hollering, "You're gonna be sorry," you know.
You didn't want to be afraid, you know, because all these other guys are right there with you, and you know, your bravado and all that. But you didn't want to be afraid, so you kept that out of your mind.
You know, in those days, jumping out of an airplane is not like today.
My first flight up, I jumped. I was years before I ever landed in an aircraft. And most of the fellow troopers was the same story.
Well, foolishly, I didn't think it'd be so tough, but the first jump you make is not all that bad. You don't know what you're doing. It just seemed like when you step out the door, well, the chute just opened right then.
As I went out the door, I was blank. I cannot remember leaving the plane until after the chute opened up. My God. But after that, it wasn't as bad.
But it was quite a thrill. It was just like going on a roller coaster. You get off and you want to go right back on again. Yeah.
It was a thrill. It was a high, as they say these days. Everybody just seemed to enjoy themselves. They went out. The landing was the hardest part.
Once I got out and the chute opened, I was happy to Lord. You know, coming down is great. I was small too, and I didn't hurt myself when I hit the ground. Some of the big ones hit the ground like a ton of, what's his name?
The thing you worried about most was your chute. Did you pack it right? And you'd go through that, you'd pack it one day and jump the next day. You had all night to think about it. You know, all kinds of ideas of what you might have done wrong, but it worked out fine.
We made 5 jumps in the 3rd week there, and then you were a qualified paratrooper. Got your wings pinned on, and became one of the elite members of the parachute regiment.
We were thoroughly prepared. The men were trained, hardened, physically and mentally, and they were ready to jump. Thus, we started off for Normandy. When you walk up that gangplank, you know you're gone. As you pull out of harbor and you pass the Statue of Liberty, will I ever be coming back? I don't know. You know you're in the parachute troops. You're going to be jumping behind the enemy lines. What do you expect? You have no idea. That'll make anybody stand and search his soul for a few minutes.
We were ready. We were ready. We were stationed in England for about a year before D-Day. We had a lot of maneuvers and parachute jumping.
They put us in a camp preparing us for D-Day. In other words, just about a week before D-Day, they put us in no liberties, no nothing. You couldn't get out of the camp.
They had guards around the marshalling area, so nobody could leave. That's when you felt that this is it. We did not know which day. We did not know where we were going to jump until we were locked in. Then they had debriefing to tell you exactly what your mission was.
And they took this map and they made a scale model of the features of the land. They put in all the little buildings, all the bridges, all the little knolls, all the sand dunes. Everything was in on that layout. We knew it by heart. We knew exactly where we were going to go. Knew exactly what to do.
I mean, if you could have been there at the time to see where the planes were lined up and all the gliders hooked up to the planes.
Tanks and trucks and fields and fields and fields of them. I had no idea that there was that much hardware. So there's no question about it. We knew it was going to be big.
And that day that, we got the orders to get in the planes, this is it.
We had confidence in our leaders and all the plans and preparations that had taken place before the invasion. So we were confident and calm.
We were all loaded down to the gills. We carried everything that we thought we could carry in the line of personal items, plus the necessary things we were assigned to carry, and we were loaded.
Everybody got in there, and a lot of them were very scared. I was scared too, but probably in a different way that other people were. As long as I was in that plane and they were going to get me there safely out of that plane, that's all that I worried about.
At the time, I had no feelings whatsoever. Like I said, my feelings was for my brother who was killed at that time. That infuriated me to no end. And that's when I jumped on D-Day, I swore I was going to kill every damn German I came across. And that's why I think they nicknamed me Wild Bill, because I did a lot of killing D-Day.
The sky was pretty clear coming across the channel. So since I was jump master, I could lie in the door, at the door of the plane with my head out in the slipstream looking down. And I saw the thousands of craft, ships, everything from LCIs to battleships down there in the channel. And I think that's when I first realized how large the invasion was, tremendously large the invasion was.
We rode for about an hour and a half, I guess, before we went down off the south end of England and then across the Jersey Islands and then across the Cherbourg Peninsula. And that's when the fireworks started.
Black was terrible. Any aircraft was absolutely horrendous. It was like a July the 4th celebration 10 times over.
Then it would hit under the wings and body, and you could hear it going brrr, like gravel hitting on the fender of a car.
You could see tracers all over the place. That's why everybody wanted to get out of the plane as fast as they could.
Whether it was high, low, no matter where we were at, out. They wanted out of the plane. They were getting shot up.
But finally, the pilots, I'm just happened to read their mind is, okay, we got so much gas, and we're going to have to get back to England. So what are we going to do with all these guys back here? Give them the green light sometime, get out. We're standing there ready to jump.
There was a certain relief, I think, when the green light came on and everybody said, let's go.
Man, I jumped up on a run and hit the static line with the hook and out the door, you know, and got such an opening blast from the opening shock from the prop blast that it broke this chin strap that we had on this helmet liner, and that's when I lost this famous leg bag that everybody talks about just from the shock of the opening. It just flew right off my foot.
The British come up with this. They call them leg bags. They got to be this big, and you keep stuffing everything you can get your hands on in them. It's supposed to weigh 10, 15 pounds. By the time you get done, it's 40 or 50 or 60 pounds. Everyone that jumped with a leg bag or supplies, they lost it. Most of the paratroopers that landed didn't have nothing.
I was one of them. It tore right off because we jumped at speeds of 150 miles an hour, maybe even higher, I don't know.
And lower than we should have been. But that wasn't bad either because you got to the ground quicker. When it went out the door, opened a I looked to see if my parachute was open, and you could see tracer bullets burning holes through the parachute.
And they told us that all you'll have to do is shuffle up to the door, throw that leg out, prop blast will hit it, and you're gone. Well, they were right. Only I was gone out and my leg was in. And I was hanging upside down, looking at everything down with my leg in the plane and everything. And all this happened in just a split second. And Paul rolled me out, Paul Rogers rolled me out.
I just helped him out. I just picked him up, threw him out, I guess. Had to get out. We just wanted to get out so bad.
And I come down right behind City Hall, watched them shoot at me all the way, which wasn't very long.
And I could see the tracers, and they were kind of spraying around in the air. Whoever the machine gunner was down there that was concentrating on me apparently was not a very good shot.
But they were firing in every direction. Even in front of you, back of you, you don't know which way to go.
The next thing is that you are getting close to landing and you're saying, there's some trees, there's a road, try and slip to avoid the trees, try and slip to avoid landing on the road.
And I slipped a little bit, and my chute fell across the power lines, and I hit that fence and fell into a farmer's garden. And that fence had, I'll never will forget it, it had glass in the top of it and cut me up and everything, but that didn't bother me. I was down, and I got down with my gun.
I hit the ground in a kind of a field, and we were way, got looking at my map, and we wasn't anywhere close to where we were supposed to be. We didn't know where we were. We was plumb off our maps that they'd give us. So we had to make our way back. We knew that the beach was to the east of where we were. So we headed that way to get down to the beach to find out where the outfit was.
My friend from Erie was in another plane. When I hit the ground, I hit about 2 feet away from him. And him and I start walking around looking for more of our troops. And we were running into Germans everywhere, but we had to hide, you know, because if we didn't, we were dead meat.
And I lit in a tree. I had my trench knife, and I reached up and grabbed a hold of it's a big trunk, the tree. I swung into it. I cut those risers with, I think, one swipe, and I come down that tree like a monkey.
And then there I was with a trench knife and a canteen and about 6 candy bars in my pocket, ready to fight the German army, you know.
So there's 4 guys that were with me on D-Day who did have nothing but a jump knife when they landed. So we had a hope scrounge. As it worked out for all of us, later on we run across somebody who had been killed, and you take his weapon, and that's how you get a weapon for D-Day, rather haphazard.
We were scattered all over the peninsula practically, so it was quite a confused situation, but we were better prepared for it than the Germans were. The Germans didn't know where we were.
Whereas on the beach, those people coming in on those boats, those Germans had those big guns aimed right at them, you know, and just waiting on them. They had it tough. They had it tough. I admire every one of them.
These guns were pointed and firing right down on the beach. And the people out of the landing craft were trying to come onto the beach, and they were firing right down on them.
This battery of 105s was placed precisely where it should be to protect that causeway, any troops coming up the causeway. As you sit back years later on and look at it, you think, oh, this was laid out exactly right, tactically. We thought we knew where every foxhole was in Normandy. We knew where everything was. We knew it cold. But on this one, the Germans had moved in there and camouflaged us so well, we didn't know it was there.
E Company was the assault company of the battalion. And we were been trained from special assaults and whatnot, special assignments. But they weren't aware of what we had. They didn't realize we only had 12 people. So we worked our way down through the farm area to a hedgerow, and Lieutenant Winters had us set up a firing position.
And went up to scout it for myself, crawled out along this hedgerow to get a little closer to look it over, and I felt I could see a trench, and I thought I knew where our machine gun was.
Winters was an exceptional leader, and he was able to size up all through the war, size up combat situations and decide quickly and correctly the best way to take care of whatever the problem was.
I divided the group into 2 units. Lieutenant Compton was with me. I gave him half the men and I took half the men. Gave instructions. I want Compton, Malarkey, and Wynn to crawl up there and hand grenade that machine gun. Crawl through the grass. And as you throw your grenades, I'll charge up with the rest of the guys. So I had the 2 machine guns set up to give him covering fire while he crawled up there.
I get out to this hedgerow, and I look up and I peek through the bushes, and I see a couple of Germans over here about 30, 50 yards away, stoking this gun and firing it. And so I pull out a hand grenade and I pull the pin on it and I threw it as high and as far as I could throw it in their general direction. The damn thing had enough hang time on it that about the time it got to them, it went off in the air, and I got one of them.
Then I jumped up with a couple other guys and we charged so that we all jumped into the first position together.
They had trenches cut in there where they worked, the Germans did, and they jumped down in them trenches and they worked them Germans like a dose of salt.
3 Germans broke off from this position to run across the field, which was the wrong thing to do from their viewpoint. We cut them down.
I was in the trench and I looked and I saw an arm. I didn't even see it. The man was in a camouflage tent and I didn't even see him. And then I saw an arm stuck over that tent and one of those potato masher grenades, with a stick, come over there and I said, well, he's gonna miss me. And that thing fell right down in that trench with me. And I was trying to scuttle my way out of the way of it and went off. And I felt like it blowed my butt over my head. And pretty near did.
He's behind the enemy lines on D-Day. Does he holler help? No. He hollers, I'm sorry, Lieutenant. I'm sorry. I goofed.
I felt like I kind of let him down, but, that's neither here nor there.
My God. It's beautiful when you think of a guy who is that dedicated to his company, to his buddies, that he apologizes for getting hit. But that's the kind of guy he was, and that's the kind each one of them was. They were all the same. I look upon them, each man with great respect, respect I can't describe. Each one of them proved himself that he could do the job. We've been through Normandy. We've been through battle. And maybe if I had been harder, if I had done a little bit better job, there would have been a couple more men going home.
I never thought I'd get through D-Day, let alone the next phase or the next phase. I thought I was going to get killed instantly. The chances of survival is very, very slim, extremely slim. As the parachute, we got that done in Edinburgh, Scotland, 1944. Me and Johnny Martin. Drunk as a skunk.
Well, Garnier and I decided we'd go to Scotland and get a tattoo. We didn't figure we had a chance to come home. But, yeah, but we thought, well, hell, the war's just starting, and Christ, we're 50% gone now, so it's a long haul.
The 101st came back from Normandy after about 33 days, and we were the replacements for the people who were killed in action or wounded in the Normandy mission.
There were young kids that came in, and for some reason, I don't know why, they were the first ones killed. And I think maybe they were trying to impress the older guys, maybe people like me or Shifty.
We were in awe of them. They were wearing infantry badges, you know, their uniform. They had a star on their jump wings. They were like heroes to us, you know. That's how we looked at them.
I don't know why, but I got right there to where I didn't want to be friendly with replacements coming in because, God, I didn't like to see them get killed. It just tore me up. And I don't know why, but they were the first ones killed.
My 10-man squad that I was in, 8 were replacements, and the squad leader and the assistant squad leader, Sergeant Muck and Corporal Pinkella, well, they'd been to Normandy. We had not. There were 8 of us that hadn't been anywhere but Airborne, you see, so. And then the training got really tough. Between there and the Holland jump, it was training. And we had a couple of missions scratched. We were supposed to jump on a French city of Tournai. And it got to the sand table part where we all gathered around to see which bridges we were going to do, who was going to do what, and General Patton's troops overran the drop zone. So that one was called off. And we were wondering if we were ever going to get to go. And then, of course, it got to be September.
It was a Sunday afternoon, noontime, 70 degrees.
The drop was perfect. It was a mass drop. Everybody was dropping on the same field.
Daytime drop's a lot easier. You can see where you're going. You can sort of prepare for the landing.
I saw a plowed field, and I slipped right over it, and I believe I almost landed standing up, you know, soft. A great jump.
The most dangerous part about it was the fact that people are continually losing helmets and equipment, and all this equipment's raining down. And if you got hit with this, you're going to be killed or wounded before you get off the drop zone.
Everybody got together. We all assembled very fast.
We moved out towards the Wilhelmina Canal. Our mission was first to take a bridge over the Wilhelmina Canal.
It took us hours to get there. And taking hours to get there, the few German troops that were to secure this bridge had plenty of time to set their charges to blow the thing up.
Just as we got to it, I was maybe 150 yards away, it blew up in our faces.
These rocks and timbers were flying, and they're falling all around you, and you can't help but think to yourself, my God, what a way to die in combat, to be killed with a flying timber. that we were that close.
It delayed us until the next morning. We wanted to get across that night, but it took us till the next morning to get across. But once we got in, the Dutch, it was just marvelous. Their reaction. They loved Americans and still do for coming in there and pushing the Germans out.
They call us angels from the sky, which we were. I mean, you're under German occupation for 4 years, right? It's horrible when you see paratroopers come out of the sky on Sunday morning. Who are they? They're your angels. They love you.
Their welcome was unbelievable. They couldn't restrain how happy they were to see you.
And it was hard to even get down the streets because the people were out there swarming all over us trying to congratulate us for being there and all that.
And they hugged you and kissed you, and we didn't mind. You know, naturally, we was young. We didn't mind at all.
And they were really proud to see us. And to the point where it was dangerous for us trying to clean out the town because snipers did some damage in a situation like that.
We had a lot of fighting in that area because we're sitting right on the Rhine River and Germany's right across the river, you know. They're fighting like heck to keep us out of Germany.
It's called the island. We call it the island. And we set up positions there. Had some substantial battles there.
They could observe any movement we made during the daytime. And at their will, they could shell us, put mortar fire on us when they had a target of opportunity.
I heard something coming down. I knew what it was, a mortar shell, and I threw my arm up like that and went down. It lit within 3 feet of me or 4, but it lets, when it blows, it goes up like that. And it went through my arm and hit me in the head, and I was bleeding pretty good.
Well, I was picked to go up on a dike. So of course, when you get to the top, you don't expose yourself. So I took my rifle and put my helmet on it and put it over, even with the road on a dike. And no action, so I brought it back down, put the helmet on, and I sort of peeked over. When I peeked over, I see a hand there with a potato masher, and he threw it at me. I ducked down, it hit my helmet and bounced off. So when that thing bounced off my helmet, I hollered out to the guys below, live grenade.
If Lesniewski hadn't hollered live grenade, and I had enough sense to know that that's that grenade that hit my rifle and is laying right in front of me, in my face practically, I know I'd have either had my head blown off or I would have definitely been blind. There's no question about that, not any question, because I just got turned just part way and it exploded, and then it caught me in the face, neck, left arm, under the arm, in the shoulder blade.
I hollered for them to, take off. I said, get the hell going back. And I had 8 grenades, so I started taking them off, pulling the pins and throwing them over. And while the grenades are rolling down or landing wherever they were hitting some of the crowds, because I could hear screaming, hollering, crying, and I think I threw the 8 grenades in about 4 seconds. And then I took off running.
So the doctor that counted the holes in me down at Nijmegen, the first doctor that really counted the holes said there was 32.
That was our first experience with artillery in large numbers. And I can remember sitting there at night, a couple of nights, listening to the artillery land.
Wham! And the 88 was the fiercest cannon or gun that the Germans had. And it was the way they used it. It was an all-purpose gun. It could shoot anti-aircraft, tanks, anti-personnel, airburst, and that was the bad ones when the shell went up over your head.
I saw a huge mushroom cloud from the shell, and Joe Toy stepped out of it. And I run up. I remember that like it was just, I run up and I grabbed him. And he said, "Oh, don't touch me." I said, "Joe, what's my?" He said, "I'm hit all over." He said, I'm bad." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'm going to go see Jim." He said, as bad as he was hurting, Joe Toy, he said, "Heffron, I already checked him. He's gone." Jim Campbell might be alive today. If he hadn't have said to me, "Heffron, you stay here with your gun. I'm going up." And I never, I sleep on it, I eat on it, I never forgot that. And anybody that went through it, I'm going to tell you the same thing. They can't, nah. It's just so bad all your life. You got to remember what one guy did because he thought it was his job to do, and he took a shot for you.
The exhaustion on these men, the physical exhaustion, affects their endurance to be able to cope. You don't realize it at the time you come off the line from living in the mud and being absolutely miserable for 70 days straight. You didn't realize at that point that you're only going to be off the line for a few days and you're going to be facing Bastogne. This is the last desperate action of the Germans to turn the tide of this whole war.
But it is Bastogne, though. It is.
This
it
is
the
Bojack's Woods, right?
Yeah. It is the woods. Sure looks different now. There ain't no snow.
These trees might have been replanted. Look how
I
straight
think if the trees look like they did in 44 and 45, we could get a better idea. That's it. Yeah.
It's the town of Foy.
Oh, this is definitely the area. This
Yeah.
is definitely. Well, there's the town of Foy right over there after the empty field where those cattle are grazing.
About a half a mile away to be.
Yeah, we had an outpost set up looking right into the town of Foy, and they had to watch everything going on because we'd come in here and go to sleep. We had our foxholes right over here, and the other area, wherever we had to move out and dig in again. Of course, the Krauts had plenty of artillery.
Most intense I went through right here. Shelling.
Had to be.
Most intense in the world. You couldn't believe it. You had to be here.
You just dove in the hole and just pray. That's it. If it comes in, you ain't going to know it.
You ain't going to know it.
We lost Muck and Penkella over on this side. They were killed instantly.
Shovel.
Direct hit, 88.
Direct hit right in the hole.
Just made mincemeat out of them.
Georgie Ludge come over and he hollered, I can't see nothing of them. There's nothing there. They were all gone, just disintegrated.
Unmerciful shelling, really. Everything I think was shredded.
Yeah.
Yeah, shredded.
Right. I tell you, it's an odd feeling.
To me, it brings a lot of memories. The memories of the men, the times, good and bad. A lot of memories.
It was the most miserable place I've ever been in my life. Even today. On a real cold night, we go to bed and my wife will tell you that the first thing I'll say is, I'm glad I'm not in Bastogne.
The Germans wanted to get Bastogne because of the road network. That's why it was such an objective. So that's where we had to hold, which we did.
318 trucks come in around noontime, and by that evening, everybody was loaded and moving out.
We were short of equipment. We didn't have enough ammunition. We didn't have enough warm clothes. But we had confidence that our higher military authorities would get to us whatever we needed. That when we got up there, we didn't know what we were getting into. There was very little information, only that the Germans had broken through.
We went down, loaded on the trucks, and another truck came by with weapons, and they pitch weapons up to the truck, and you catch a weapon, that's what you got until you got to Bastogne.
As it worked out, there's some men actually got on the trucks and left for Bastogne and didn't have a rifle.
When we got there, we saw men singly and in twos and threes working their way back, some of them even without weapons, without equipment. Some of them were terrified.
They were beat to a nub, and every one of them were telling us, you know, they're going to kill everybody. They're running over everybody.
They couldn't believe when they saw us up there that we intended to set up defensive lines and to stop the Germans. They said they couldn't be stopped.
We went out of town, we started taking up their weapons and their ammunition.
Asking the guys that's retreating, you got any extra ammunition or hand grenades you don't want? Oh yeah, you could hear the firing going on up ahead, and we're marching towards it with hardly any ammunition.
We marched through the night and went up to the forward side of Bastogne and dug in, and then it snowed.
Snow, cold up to your rump. We didn't have no winter clothing or nothing. And that's where a third of the doggone casualties was either frostbite or trench foot or whatever you want to call it.
Bad move. A lot of snow. A lot of everything you didn't like. Ooh, it's a cold place.
At this particular time, we was on top of a kind of a hill, and top of the hill had pine trees. And we set up our positions around the fringe of the woods.
In Belgium, the trees are planted. They don't grow like they do in Maine. They're rows of trees. You look down a row and you can see a half a mile. And there was on top of this hill, there was a ridge with a tree line. We were dug in on that ridge. Germans knew right where we were, and they really gave us a shellacking.
To infantrymen in wartime, the Mother Earth is your best friend. And you can always dig a hole and get out of sight, you know. We dug plenty of those. Yeah.
You'd be surprised how quick you can get through that hard ground when somebody's shooting at you and them shells are falling. Now, you can make fast work of it. We just have to dig that hole.
Well, we say we became experts on foreign European soil. We dug in, and two people could dig a better hole than one.
In the ground is frozen, it takes quite a while. You just chip it out. And by the time you get it done, they whistle for you we're moving out. and you go someplace else and dig another one.
Now, you must understand, we were surrounded. The Germans were about maybe 100 yards away from us.
No matter where you looked around the circle, you could see artillery flashes. So we knew from that we were surrounded.
We went through a couple of shellings at Bastogne that were earth-shaking. If you lived through them, you remember them for the rest of your life, and I'm not sure you're the same for the rest of your life after you live through them. You never forget them.
There was one moment there that I remember vividly. I'll never forget it. One of the guys got hit in the arm with a piece of shrapnel, took his arm off above the elbow. And they were taking him out. He said, "Get my wristwatch off my arm." And 40 took him out. That always stayed with me. I mean, a calm voice and everything, "Get my wristwatch off my arm."
On the 3rd of January, we withdrew back to our former positions there up the hill from Foy. And when we got there, we could see that the Germans had zeroed in artillery there. Because trees were knocked down, branches were knocked out of trees, there were holes in the ground.
It was right at dusk, and the Germans had this, this woods of ours zeroed in completely, and as we hit the woods, why this tremendous artillery attack came.
They knew where we were, and they started shooting point-blank 88s into our area.
They were letting us have it, everything. The kitchen sink mortars, Erfelwaffers, that's a rocket thing that's a screaming sound.
It scared the hell out. I mean, I was scared, but I think I was petrified then. I thought the whole world was shooting at us at once.
I jumped into a foxhole that somebody had started and then hadn't finished. So I was crouched down in that foxhole, but it wouldn't hold all of me, so from about my nose up was above the ground. I could see all these shells hitting.
Sergeant Garnier lost a leg, and Joe Toy lost a leg in the same place right there on one hill. I remember just this certain instance,
Joe got caught not near his hole, and Bill and I were ahead of him, and Bill had not been hit, and he came up out of his hole quickly, and we were still under heavy fire.
Joe said, "Jesus Christ, what do I have to do to die?" He got hit real bad in the back and the leg. And he's out there and have a medic, and he can't find a medic. I went out to see what I could do for him. Bongo, I got it too.
I went over to Garnier. He was sitting on the ground. His leg was badly mangled. He was holding his leg and it was jerking like that. And he said, "Lip, they got old Garnier this time." He had been hit before, but they really got him there.
We got him out of there, like Babe Heffron and I and some others, and they brought a Jeep down, and we put him on stretchers, and I better not talk about him. Yeah, better not talk about it. They're terrible.
We had lost some very good men there. Toy and Garnier had lost their legs there. A number of other people were killed. It was a difficult situation there.
When a man was wounded, we felt glad for them. We felt happy for them. He had a ticket to get out of there, and maybe a ticket to go home. And when we had a man who was killed, we found that he was at peace, and he looked so peaceful. And we were glad that he found peace.
We had this assistant squad leader named Mallet. He was from New York City. And I overheard him talking one time. This was in Bastogne. He says, I've been through Normandy and I went through Holland. And to this day, he says, I haven't got one scratch. He says, I'm afraid when I do get it, I'm really going to get it. And he was right. In this little town of Foy, he got killed. So I don't think he had any premonition of it. He just wondered about it, you know. But I never did wonder. Never give it much thought. You just live from day to day. Keep your fingers crossed, and that was it.
I have the honor to present the Supreme Commander, General Eisenhower. It is a great personal honor for me to be here today to take part in a ceremony that is unique in American history. Never before has a full division been cited by the War Department in the name of the President for gallantry in action. This day marks the beginning of a new tradition in the American Army. With that tradition, therefore, will always be associated the name of the 101st Airborne Division and of Bastogne. Good luck and God be with each of you.
The Germans had started to surrender. They still had their arms. But as you're going down the Autobahn, there was almost a solid line of German troops coming north. And our job is to get to the end and get to the heart of it. Berchtesgaden, that's the end of the line. It's the retreat that Hitler had for himself. And he built his eagle's nest, his penthouse, on top of the Alp to, I'm sure, relax and confer with his staff because they all followed him to Berchtesgaden. This was their final retreat. And of course, this is where they had their loot as well. This was the goal of the French who were on our right flank. This was the goal of the British, and this is a place to capture. This is the one everybody wanted.
Hitler's Berchtesgaden retreat, burned by SS troops in the war's last days. The chalet from which he hoped to rule the world now lies in ruins. American Air Force's pictures show the huge gutted rooms and the great window through which the Fuhrer gazed out on the Alps.
We took Berchtesgaden May the 5th, and no fighting, no shooting. The only thing I seen at Berchtesgaden was a couple dead black uniform SS troopers laying on the road as we were going up.
It was a beautiful country. He knew how to pick out a good spot for a house. We took over his house and liberated it, you might say.
There was obviously a loot of all kinds that the men were looking for, such as guns. There was money that they were looting.
I was a pack rat anyway. I picked up a lot of German items, including some postcards and envelopes that were addressed to Hitler.
Come find out, that place was full of this big art, you know, Rembrandt and all those people, you know, and hanging on the wall, you know. Of course, the old soldiers like us, we don't recognize a painting when we see it.
The 101st Airborne Division uncovers Hermann Goering's personal art collection, hidden in a subterranean chamber. 1,200 artworks worth untold millions are included. The treasures will go back to rightful owners in pillaged nations.
We found a warehouse full of gin and vodka and stuff like that. It wasn't much whiskey. Those people don't like whiskey. And we took it all and set up a bar.
Had 7 truckloads of champagne and cognac out of the wine cellars out of the Eagle's Nest.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we stayed pretty well oiled for a while.
Oh, that champagne was good. Ooh, it was good.
I started drinking it one day, and I drank it till about midnight that night. I went to the barracks, went to sleep. I didn't wake up the next day. I made a 2-day thing out of it. And it didn't taste like it would hurt you. It tastes like ginger ale.
That was the only time that I can ever remember that when I was in service that the whole company fell out in their underwear. We didn't even have to dress, you know, 'cause everybody was pretty well looped, and so we just fell out in line formation in their underwear.
They're enjoying themselves. They're at peace with the world. They have a big, happy, satisfied grin on their face. It was a paradise for a soldier to move into. I had no problem with looting because of the fact that I had come down through Germany and I had seen the Holocaust. And I had seen what the Germans had done to the Jewish race, and I'd seen what they had done to the displaced persons, and what they had done in their occupation of France, and what they had done to their occupation in Holland, Belgium. So that by taking over their homes for a few nights to bed down my men, and if they picked up a few trinkets, I had no problem. Nobody has ever taken the time to tell you how to handle a surrender. Jesus. We'll talk about that when we get there. Well, here we are, we got it. Now, how do you handle this?
The German army was a well-disciplined army, and those prisoners that come down out of the Alps, they came down in formation. They marched down. They didn't drag down, you know, or nothing like that. They came down as defeated soldiers.
I think we thought that the Germans were probably the evilest people in the world. But as the war went along, we found out also that it wasn't the Germans per se. It was the SS and the special troops. They were the ones that could kill their own people, and the regular German soldier was not that way.
One of those prisoners handed me this little book I could have, and I looked at it, and it was a little Catholic prayer book for the Mass. And all of a sudden, I'm faced with the thing, hey, I haven't got Nazis here, I got some Catholics. And I've got a Catholic good enough to stick one of these in his pocket.
A lot of those soldiers, I've thought about this often. That man and I might have been good friends. We might have had a lot in common. We might have liked to fish, you know, he might have liked to hunt. You never know, you know. Of course, they were doing what they were supposed to do, and I was trying to do what I was supposed to do. But under different circumstances, we might have been good friends.
I have a great deal of respect for them as soldiers. They were very good soldiers. But they're still enemy, so they must be controlled as prisoners. When it reached the level of surrender for company and smaller units, I was assigned this major, and when he walked in, he presented me this pistol and offered his personal surrender, which naturally I accepted gratefully. So that would be the end of the war for his men, and this is basically the end of the war for my men. And the significance is that it wasn't until later, when he had given me this pistol and I had a chance to look at it carefully, that I realized this pistol had never been fired. There was no blood on it. That's the way all wars should end, with an agreement with no blood on it. And I assure you, this pistol has never, never been fired since I've had it, and it will not be fired.
We didn't come home and flout ourselves. I didn't come home and, I was a war hero or anything. I just come home and went back to like we did before we went. Just go to work and live our life.
I think it was difficult for most fellas coming back. They didn't know what they were going to do when they got out. I didn't, had no idea.
Went to work for a coal company.
Did some bartending and ran a pool hall.
Took up a course in ornamental horticulture. It didn't pay very much, but there were a lot of nice people.
I went to work where I was working before the war. It was Caterpillar Tractor Company.
I became an industrial arts teacher and a social studies teacher. The spring of '46, I took a boat to Ketchikan, Alaska.
I went to work for the government, a letter carrier for 37 years.
I built homes. I went into construction. I went into hard work, tedious work. I'd done everything. You name it, I'd done it.
I ended up working on the waterfront.
And I went with the CIA in Washington.
Got my degree in 1948.
After the war, I became a teacher and taught for almost 30 years.
Got a job working for Nixon Nitration Works. I was making $75 a week.
We've never become wealthy in life, but we have a lot of other wealth that means more than that, really.
Everyone done well. I done well too, thank God. I want to welcome each and every one of you to our banquet tonight to celebrate the ending of a fine reunion. Thank you all for coming. And I want to extend the best wishes to all the men from Company E506. I love you. God bless you all. Thank you.
The purpose the reunions serve is just to give us a chance to get together and talk to each other. We relive some of the Army experiences, but we have great respect and you might say affection for each other. The type of affection that you get when you've lived through many dangerous situations together and have learned that you can rely on each other.
If you see the people today, that bond's still there. The bond you can't explain. As soon as you see them, you know you're thinking of battles and thinking of it to yourself. The men staying out amongst each other.
There's an intimacy develops, and like nothing that I've ever experienced anywhere, not in college, not with any other group of people.
We're a strange bunch of dudes, as far as I'm concerned, to be this close after all these years. That's the thing that gets me, is I like brothers.
I'm back in my youth now. When I get to these guys, I'm back when I went to service. It's fantastic. I'd like to make 20 more reunions.
We had a lot of real good times in there. And those are the times that you really remember, you know. That's, a lot of those is what we kid each other about, you know, at these reunions a lot of times. And then you had a lot of bad times. My family didn't know anything about it. And I just didn't tell them. I just, you know, figured it's something that didn't need talking about. It was done, over with.
We didn't know Shifty the way the men know Shifty. You know?
So, but he started talking about it just in the last 5 or 6 years. Last 5, I'd say. It was like that was another life, you know. he was another person, and we weren't aware that the stuff he went through, things he'd seen. I didn't even, you know, it didn't even dawn on me that he'd killed people.
I really admire my daddy. He's a good guy. He's a real strong guy. We travel a lot, and we've been to France and to that cemetery. It's just incredible. There's crosses upon crosses upon crosses, and just lined up perfectly as far as the eye can see. And then there's a cliff, you know, and then the ocean.
These weren't just anonymous statistics. These were people that I knew, and I told my daughter, I said, this guy here died at age 19 or 20. A whole life, never lived. No family, nothing. No children, no opportunity to have some satisfaction of building a life, nothing.
When I went there, I said, Dad, my gosh, Dad, you were so lucky. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, I'm very lucky, and he started crying.
These guys have been with each other in the absolute base experiences of human existence. They were there with each other, knowing you're going to die, or thinking you're going to die, or seeing people dying all around you. And there they went, day after day, and I admire that. And held my father even on his tombstone as Sergeant Joe Toy. 506 PIR, 101st Airborne Division. That's what he wanted on his tombstone. It meant that much to him.
How it happened that those various individuals happened to end up in E Company, I don't know. But as you know, every Army unit thinks it's the best. But we knew we were the best.
Think about your God more than anything else. Think about most of them every day. Something is etched in your memory, I guess. He'll never leave either.
Am I a little proud of having once served in that outfit? You bet your life. I wore that eagle on my right shoulder for 18 years. Probably the proudest thing in my whole life, having been in Easy Company 506.
The heroes have crosses over their heads, the ones that are buried in the cemeteries. Those are the true heroes, not us. We're just part of the work, that's all. And we thank God we got back alive, that's all.
How would you like to be a mother or a father whose son never come back? The son and the mother and father are the heroes of the Second World War. Not the guys that come home.
Let me say this. I don't believe there's very, very, very few heroes that came back from the war. They're still over there.
Do you remember the letter that Mike Ranney wrote me? Do you remember how he ended it? I cherish the memories of a question my grandson asked me the other day when he said, Grandpa, were you a hero in the war? Grandpa said no. But I served in a company of heroes.
Joe Toy, oh, there was a big Mick. And we used to have a few beers at night, and I'd sing. And Garnier would try to come over and sing. He'd say to Garnier, Garnier, you're Italian. You don't know this song. Garnier could sing it better than he did. Bridget O'Flynn.
How's it go?
Oh. Bridget O'Flynn, Bridget O'Flynn, where have you been? Sure, it's a fine time for you to come in. You went to see the big parade, me eye. Sure, the big parade it never took so long in passing by. Look at your shoes, ain't it a sin, Bridget O'Flynn? Sure, your story and your shoes are mighty thin. If you know anyone that owns a canoe, I'm telling you, Bridget, just what to do. Stay away from the water, Bridget, darling. Now that's the song Twilight. And that's what we sang. You only needed a sissel of beer. 2 beers you were drunk because you were in great physical condition. You were too peaked, and 2 beers you were high as Georgia Pine,